on day 2 of special voting. We begin in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape, where technical glitches have delayed special voting today. Our reporter Maluingelo Booi joins us live from there with an update. Malu, tell us, things have progressed thus far, surely?
I'll tell you this, Michelle, we've been moving around to various voting stations here in Mdantsane, just trying to see how the second day of special voting is faring, at least in some of the voting stations that we've visited to. What we've realized is that, voting started a little bit late because of technical challenges with the voter machine devices that IEC officials are using. But also, though, some of the things that we have observed is that people who did not apply for special votes would actually come into voting stations hoping that they would actually be allowed to vote, but then IEC officials would explain to them that because they did not register or apply to vote on this day, then they would need to come back and vote tomorrow. Here you can just see there's just a handful really of people at this particular voting station that are waiting to go inside and vote. I have been told that this voting station, Michelle, in total it will see over 1,000 people that will be voting here. But there has been generally been enthusiasm with those that we've spoken to, especially the elderly that came in to vote, people saying that they really could not miss applying for special vote or even taking part in this election, because for them this election is so important because they want to see change in their lives, they want to see improvement in their communities, Michelle. But people are saying that, of course, only time will tell whether their votes will essentially work for them in improving their lives. Remember, Michelle, we're also in the province that continues to battle a lot of challenges. The Eastern Cape has got the highest number of unemployed, which is at 41%. And when you drive around Mdantsane, Michelle, you can see some of those numbers in human beings that are just roaming around the streets, standing in street corners, and they'll tell you that all they want is to essentially get employment. But also in Mdantsane, Michelle, particularly where we are, this is an area that continues to battle with crime, and people saying that they hope that the government that they're voting for will essentially deliver an improved policing. But we've also seen IEC officials, moving around, going into some of homes, to help people that could not necessarily be physically at these voting stations, going to their homes and help them, vote in this crucial 2024 general elections.
And Malu, I've been listening to a lot of discussion, as all of us do at a time like this, an important, as you say, a crucial election. The discussion around the 3 ballot papers. Do you find that perhaps special voting is taking just a bit longer as IEC officials explain the 3 ballots? We've gone now from 2 to 3 ballots for these national elections.
In fact, Mish, I was just inside this voting station a short while ago, and I was listening to how IEC officials were essentially just explaining these 3 ballot papers to a person that was waiting to vote, because they only explain to them when they are essentially inside. And there's also, party agents that are monitoring. Yes, that is making the process a little bit longer, as you rightfully said. But some of the people, Michelle, that I've spoken to that have already voted have actually been telling me that it was actually a smooth and easy process, which they actually quite enjoyed, even though there was a lot of explanation that they were subjected to by IEC officials, because they needed to make sure that they understand those 3 ballot papers. In the 3 ballot ballot papers here, here, Michelle. There's those, the regional one and the provincial one. Here in the Eastern Cape, if you look at the provincial ballot, it has about what? I think about 20 political parties. And then when you look into the regional ballot, it has about 30 political parties that people in this province will really have to decide who they really want to go to the National Assembly for them from this region, but also in the province.
Yeah, absolutely. It's imperative that we understand where it is that we were making our X's when all of us go into that voting booth. Maluingelo Booi is live to us there in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape. Let's take you now to KwaZulu-Natal, where police have identified 200 voting stations as being at risk of possible violence. Our reporter Nobuhle Modise has been monitoring the progress there just a short while ago, witnessing DA Premier candidate Chris Pappas casting his ballot. Nobuhle, that's incredibly worrying. Not the fact that he's cast his ballot, but the fact that such a high number of voting stations have been essentially earmarked as hotspots.
Indeed, Michelle, outside of, the political violence that we know of in the province, but there was also that issue, you'd remember, an alert was sent out immediately after a court ruling that former President Jacob Zuma would not is ineligible to stand as a member of parliament, but he may still be the face of the MK party. An alert was sent out by a private security company saying that there have been, some reports that there will be some protests from MK supporters throughout various voting stations nationally, and obviously they're taking that call more seriously here in the province since it is the home of the party. So that is why you see all that personnel that has been sent out in and around the province. There's been a number of media briefings, to alert the media about which hotspots these are and where we can expect a high vigilance from the police. It's not only just the police, but they are roping in the NIU as well as a lot of private security companies. But now during the special voting process, we haven't seen any police presence, Michelle. I mean, we were crisscrossing the eThekwini metro yesterday and we didn't really see much of a police presence. It was also quite a sluggish start to the special voting process. We're seeing the same thing here in the Midlands, as you mentioned, that we saw Chris Pappas cast his vote earlier in Howick, where he's from. He was in the more affluent side of Howick. We are now at a township called Cosmo, which is an ANC stronghold, and also quite a sluggish start. We haven't seen any police presence. As you can see, I'm outside. I'm going to move out of shot so my colleague can just show you, what it looks like here. Party agents all around. There isn't much of a queue. No police vans in sight, and it's just very slow. There's no one inside. We went inside to go check if we could speak to some voters. There was no one, but I did manage to grab Ugogo Kanepi Dlamini, who's here right next to me. She does have a knee issue, so she is sitting down, and I just grabbed her before she goes inside to go cast her vote. And I just want to speak to her, about exactly why she's casting her vote this year. Siyabonga kakhulu gogo. Ithi siqala ngokuthi dala abantu ngenkathi yobandlululo abantu abaningi bebevotela intuthuko. Okwamanje njengoba uzovota usuvotelani?
Manje ngivotela kona intuthuko, ngiyayifuna intuthuko. Kuba ikuthuli nje ingane zami azisebenzi nama njengoba ngingaphilile nami.
Inkinga ezikhona la endaweni mhlawumbe ungasichazela ukuthi yiziphi?
Inkinga la endaweni akukho kakhulu ngoba amanzi sinawo, ugesi ke iwona, angithi ugesi uyavula ukwahulumeni ke lokho, angithi ayikho inkinga lapho.
Uzimisele ukubona ukuthi
izoqhubeka yini inkinga yabantwana bafuna basebenze, yiloko nje kuphela okusenhlizweni yami.
That is Gogo Kanepi Dlamini. She's going to cast her vote just now as soon as we let her go. And she's just saying that she's voting for the same reason she would have voted in 1994. She wants to see progress. She says her children are unemployed. And in terms of the area and issues in and around the area, she says it's those general issues that we all know of. She says they don't have a water issue, but electricity. Obviously, that load shedding issue is a problem. But you would know that this particular area is under Umgeni municipality, which is run by by Chris Pappas. And you've heard the DA also say that they're using Umgeni municipality, as the brand for people to trust them. You would have heard their slogan saying that they're asking people to trust them for the next 5 years, not to get into a marriage with them for 30 years, but to just lend them their vote for the next 5 years. But yeah, we're still here in Cosmo. We're not seeing any police presence, as I've mentioned, but obviously tomorrow we're going to see completely different scenes from what we've seen during this special voting process, Michelle.
Nobuhle, before we let you go, have police given any clarity on where exactly these 200, shall we call them hotspot voting stations are?
So I'm guessing for security reasons, they haven't really let us in on all the details. But obviously those obvious ones like the Zululand district, Nongoma, Ulundi, where we've seen a number of political killings take place there. That's a hotspot as well. We know of the Amajuba district, eThekwini as well. A number of areas there have been highlighted as hotspot areas, but they haven't really given us complete details, obviously for security reasons. But the ones that are well known for, violence during these times when it's election time, that's where we'll see a lot of the SAPS personnel and other members of private security companies being there in their numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nobuhle, I've asked Maluingelo Booi this in the Eastern Cape. I'm going to ask you in KwaZulu-Natal as well. Do you reckon, just in speaking to people as they've been voting today, as you've been going around the province, that they have an understanding of the 3 ballot papers and what each of them means?
In fact, Michelle, we went on a little expedition. We went around asking people if they knew that there are 3 ballots and what those 3 ballots were for. And to be quite honest, a lot of people were really unsure of what the third ballot entails. Most of them, when you ask them to name those ballots, they would say it's a provincial, it's a national, and some would say local, some would say, I actually don't know what it is and what it means. And so it's very important for, the members of the officials here that are here to explain those processes to voters, because as and when we're going around, when we ask people, do you actually know why there's a third ballot, what that third ballot is for? Many of them didn't know. Those who knew were aligned to certain political parties, and those who were just ordinary members of the public didn't really understand what that regional ballot actually meant.
Yeah, that's very worrying indeed. And hopefully that's an issue that the IEC and party agents are attending to, not just in KZN, but around the country. Nobuhle Modise, thanks very much indeed for that update.